Hi guys, Sarah here, and welcome to Novel Expectations. Today I'm coming to you with my 30th weekly wrap-up for 2016. So let's jump into how I'm doing on my challenges. So for my summer book bingo, I am now at 10 out of 25 books completed. I am 5 books ahead of schedule for my reading challenge according to Goodreads. For my A to Z authors and A to Z title challenge, neither of those still haven't changed. I'm at 18 out of 26 and 17 out of 26 respectively. For my 2016 How Many Pages, I've read 17,240 pages out of 25,000 pages, which puts me at 68% complete for the year. Jelly Belly Jelly Bean Challenge, no flavors done yet. And the Listopia Challenge, I'm still on level 1, but I have now done 11 out of 25 books. So I only finished 1 book this week, but it was so good. So this week I finished The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. Again, I hope I'm saying that correctly. I gave this book 5 stars. It was unbelievable. For those of you who have read it, maybe you agree with me, I don't know. I started this book last Sunday, and I was driving home from work on Tuesday, and I called my mom, and I'm like, why have I not picked up this book until now? I couldn't put it down. It was so good. Like, I was looking forward to my lunch hour at work, so I could sit and eat my sandwich and read this. I was thoroughly surprised in myself that I enjoyed this. I will be honest, it was a book I wanted to read, and I think it was more one of those ones that everybody's read it, so why haven't I? I've never seen the movie either. I honestly thought this is something I would not have any interest in. This is a place in the world, this is a culture that I know nothing about, that I don't believe at all that I could relate to, and that I honestly was not even interested in. That was my thought going into this. But I was so happy that I was wrong. I've never been so happy about being wrong in my life. I was telling my mom on the phone, because she read this a number of years ago, and so she still remembers the story. And I was telling her on the phone, it really puts a new perspective on the Middle East. For those of you who don't know, The Kite Runner is about 2 young boys, one who is a wealthy man's son, and his best friend, who is essentially their servant's son. And they are the best of friends. And the Kite Runner refers to every winter in Kabul, am I saying that correctly? I'm so sorry. That they do these kite flying tournaments. And the Kite Runner is when one of the kites gets cut down, the Kite Runner is the one who chases the kite. And, oh my god, gosh, I'm so sorry. I cannot remember the other young boy's name. Hassan and Amir. Amir is the wealthy man's son, and Hassan is the servant's son, and he's the Kite Runner. So pretty much this starts off when they're young boys, and it's in the 1970s, and then I believe it's in 1979. Russia invades Afghanistan, and their whole world changes. And after that, the aftermath of that with the Taliban and all this stuff. Now, what I wanted to talk about really quickly in this video is that I'm 37 years old, so I'm not exactly young. But all the events, the major events in this book that take place are after I was born. So I have no knowledge, really, of Afghanistan other than the war-torn Afghanistan that, we saw on the TV during Desert Storm. Or that, they talked about when the Twin Towers fell in 2001 in September. That's the Middle East and the Afghanistan that I am familiar with. But to see it through the eyes of a character, and I believe the author has said this is semi-biographical, to see what it was like prior to, and how not fun, but a magical place in a way it was to grow up in. They didn't have television, they had radio, but the kids had to make their own fun with like these kite flying tournaments. And then, so the story progresses from when they're boys and then to more events, and it actually ends just after September 11th, I think. The book was published in 2003. So it's an older book. In 2003, I think it was 2003. Fantastic. If you have not read this book, please do. I cried at the end. It wasn't ugly crying. It wasn't happy tears, it wasn't sad tears, it was weird. It was just like, I think a part of me was sad that the story was over. And now I am thoroughly excited about reading the author's other two books. I know one of them is called A Thousand Splendid Suns, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the other one. I'll put it right here. But yeah, I cannot recommend this book enough. Now, I finished an Outlander book this year, and you guys know how much I love Outlander. I actually think this tops it at this point in time for my favorite book of the year. We shall see at the end of the year when I do my big wrap-up video, but right now, if this doesn't make #1, it'll definitely be a runner-up. Loved it, highly recommend it. So what am I currently reading? This is where I might get a little more talky, because a couple things have changed in regards to my book bingo and the books that I'm actually reading. And I actually DNF'd a book, guys. I know, you're shocked, I know. So let's start off with the books that I'm currently reading right now. And the first one is John Irving's Last Night in Twisted River. I'm about 175 pages through this. I'm still trying to work my way through it, about 25 pages ago at a time. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it still. Even though I'm putting it down and picking it up, and I'm reading other things in between, I'm still finding it fairly easy to follow, which is a good thing, because I was a little bit worried about that. But yeah, so far I am still really enjoying it. The other book that I picked up as soon as I was done reading The Kite Runner was The Friday Night Knitting Club by Kate Jacobs. This is the first book in the Friday Night Knitting Club series. It's two of my favorite things. It's reading and knitting. I love the little quote on the front from USA Today because I really think it sums up this book perfectly, and it's Steel Magnolias set in Manhattan. And it's essentially about a group of women who meet at a local yarn store every Friday night, and they are the Friday Night Knitting Club, and pretty much their trials and tribulations. Now, I thought I had finished this book. I remember picking it up a number of years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and I thought for sure I had finished it. But then, and I remember enjoying it, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I actually recommended this to her, and she said, oh yeah, that whatever happens in the end. Now, she didn't give it away, but she said something about at the end, and I'm like, something big? I couldn't remember the ending. And then when I picked it back up, I started flipping through it, and I kind of, and I know I shouldn't have done this, but I went to almost the second last page, and I read a paragraph, and I'm like, I didn't finish this book the first time around. So this is another book for my summer book bingo. The category is to read a book with a day of the week in the title, so Friday. So yeah, so far I'm only about 30 pages into it. I just started it yesterday, but so far I'm really enjoying it. So let's jump into the book that I DNF'd this week. And that was The Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley. I am actually kind of upset. I was upset leading up to, for this whole week I've been thinking, I have no interest in reading this book. And the funny thing was, I read this book 15 years ago, in my early 20s. And I remember loving it. Now, I don't remember what I rated it, because back then there was no Goodreads or anything like that where I was rating books. I was literally just reading books and going, yeah, I like it, or no, I don't like it. But I was thoroughly excited when I grabbed the audiobook because it was narrated by Davina Porter, who is narrating the Outlander series, and she's an unbelievable narrator. I started listening to this, and almost right from the get-go, I was kind of like, oh, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to like this again. But I'm like, I don't DNF books. I don't DNF books. But this is a 50-hour-long audiobook, and I even sped it up to 3 times the playback speed. And at the time I did that, I still had 40 hours left of it. And all I kept thinking to myself was, I still got 12 or 13 hours left of this to listen to, even at 3 times the speed. So I made the difficult decision to DNF it. I came to the realization, I was thinking about it the other night, when I made the decision to DNF it, or do not finish it, essentially, for those of you who don't know what that means, that I'm not into fantasy anymore. When I read this 15 years ago, I was into fantasy. I have not read the Lord of the Rings series by Tolkien. I did read The Hobbit in high school, and I didn't mind it. But I read a lot of books from, is it the Dragonlance series? Does anybody else remember that, or is that just me? It was I think a card game or something like that. But there was Dragons of Autumn Twilight. I mean, I read all those, and I really enjoyed them. And then, of course, I read The Mists of Avalon. Now, The Mists of Avalon might not necessarily be considered to be a fantasy book. It is, quote-unquote, based upon a possible actual historical figure, that of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. I couldn't get into the story at all, and I thought if it wasn't a long book, if it was only like, you know, if it was only like a 20-hour long audiobook, I might have forced myself. But even at the rate that I was listening to it, it still would have been another couple weeks before I finished it, and I did not want to devote that much time to something I wasn't enjoying. So I made the decision, and because of that, I've had to pick another book for that category for Book Bingo, because that category was essentially to read a book by an author whose last name starts with either X, Y, or Z, I think. I think it was X, Y, or Z. So I've picked another book for that, but I'll get into that in just a minute. I'll jump into the audiobook that I'm currently listening to, and I picked the next one, which in the Fool's Gold series, which is Finding Perfect by Susan Mallery. I believe I talked about this last week, that I decided to not listen to Paris by Edward Rutherford because, again, it was another 40-hour long audiobook, and instead listen to something a bit shorter. And this audiobook is only 9 hours long, and I'm already an hour into it, and I'm loving it. I love the Fool's Gold series by Susan Mallery. I think I needed some more contemporary over the summer because I've been reading a lot of, lots of different things that I needed my contemporary romance, my fallback, my favorite. So, like I said, I'm about an hour into this. I'm hoping to get it done in the next week or so. This is the third book in the Fool's Gold series, if I didn't say that. And it's the story of Pia and Raoul. And I just love this series. I am so thrilled to be listening to this. And it is narrated by Tanya Eby. And as for the book that I chose to replace, The Mists of Avalon, we are going from one end of the spectrum to the other in terms of length. So The Mists of Avalon was a 50-hour long audiobook. I have now gone down to a 100-page novella. Not intentionally. I was looking through Goodreads trying to find lists of authors' names that start with whatever letter. And I looked through the Z's and I didn't find anything that interested me, nothing that I owned. So then I jumped down and went through the Y's. And I found a couple books that I actually owned, and they are by Zoe York. And the book that I ended up picking is actually called Between Then and Now. And it is the first book, actually the prequel to the Windham series, I believe it is. And yeah, it's like a 100-page novella. I thought, this is my reasoning. I essentially pretty much read 300 pages of The Mists of Avalon before I decided to DNF it. I think I'm more than entitled to pick a 100-page novella for this this bingo square. That's my reasoning. I literally just started this morning. I guarantee you I will probably have it done. I could probably sit and finish it today if I really wanted to. So I will definitely have this one to review for you guys next week. But it's a contemporary romance about a couple that's married. From the sounds of it, it sounds like they had a one-night stand that ended in a pregnancy, and then they end up getting married, and it goes from there, and how their relationship has now hit a very rocky period. So yeah, so far it's really cute, and I will definitely let you guys know next week what I thought about it. So anyway, guys, have you read any of the books that I have talked about this week? And if so, what did you think about them? Or let me know what you're reading this week, because I'd love to know. And until my next video, guys, take care and happy reading. Bye.